Good afternoon. Want to thank everyone for coming out this beautiful, sunny spring afternoon for the Small and Minority Business Committee public hearing. We're here to discuss the creation of an employee transit pass program within the Capital Crossroads Special Improvement District. This afternoon, we will hear from Mark Lundeen, Administrator in the Department of Economic Development. He'll provide us an overview of special improvement districts in Columbus and their respective roles throughout the city. And then we'll hear from Mr. Cleve Ricksecker to give us an overview of the proposed transit program, its benefits to employees, the benefits to property owners, and the potential greater impact of this proposed program. Finally, we'll have public comment, and if you'd like to speak in favor, against, or ask questions, please fill out a blue speaker slip and return it to my team who are standing on the side. Certainly want to recognize and appreciate my colleague, Councilmember Mike Cinziano, for joining us for this public hearing. With that, and Councilmember, feel free to jump in anytime with questions or if you'd like to make a statement now. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Mark Lundeen.
Thank you, council members. Appreciate the time to be here and talk about the Special Improvement District program that we have at the city. We did this on Monday night at Main Street as well, which is also endeavoring to become a Special Improvement District during the petition season, which is really now until council break. And one of the things that was said at the Main Street SID public hearing was the role that Cleve Ricksecker has played across the city to just not only support the downtown SIDs, but his greater overall support for the SID as a tool for neighborhoods to help themselves lift themselves up and provide additional safety and security services. And so we appreciate having Cleve here and the work that he does in our city. A special improvement district is really a step in which property owners themselves are taking proactive action to say, we want to assess ourselves to provide an additional level of services that the city does not already provide. In all cases, special improvement districts are designed to provide clean services, so cleaning streets or areas in a greater fashion than the city would otherwise provide, or safety services. Those are the predominant means or services that SIDs are providing. We currently have 5 SIDs, the original 2 downtown, the Capital Crossroads SID and the Discovery District SID. We also have a SID on Morris Road, the University District, and Short North. The first SID was the Capital Crossroads SID in 2000, and since then, all of the SIDs, with the exception of the University District, have gone through renewals and have agreed to continue their services. The University District SID was the last one established in 2015 and is just really getting up and running right now. They're all a little bit different, and their area of focus is really driven by the property owners. And again, the city's role is neutral in this. We're administering the program. We are responsible for receiving the funds from the county, and we directly deposit the funds into the SID Association accounts, and the SID Association and the board members, business association is driving what the dollars are investing in. In the case of the Morris Road SID, 12, 13 years ago, the city had done a major public infrastructure improvement along Morris Road. The business owners came together and said, we want to achieve a higher level of maintenance. We want to be able to do special banners and landscaping in the right-of-way, and we want to assess ourselves an amount to maintain those. So they began for the first 10 years. I think it's clear that it has had a lasting impact on Morris Road. We've really turned around the business environment on this portion of Morris Road, and I constantly am getting comments from businesses that that corridor is bright and shiny corridor as opposed to where we were 12 years ago. So they renewed their SID and really, again, are just pursuing cleanliness and a higher level of maintenance along the corridor. Places like the University District would be the opposite, where they're really focused on security. They have a lot of business owners that are worried about security in the almost 24/7 environment that the university provides along High Street. And so they're focusing most of their resources on enhanced security, working with the Columbus Department of Police and other campus police organizations to network and coordinate security. Places like the Capital Crossroads SID, and again, Cleve can talk about this in much greater detail, have expanded services to the homeless, have pursued public art programs, have done a number of other things in the public right-of-way or through a public purpose that are providing additional services beyond the city's capacity. And so it's really been a great tool for businesses to work together as a community and determine and drive their own fate and what they want to see prioritized from a service perspective. The other commentary that I would give is, we've seen this be successful and have played the administrative role in it. We really are look at our department as simply informative to businesses or communities that are pursuing this. But we think this is a great tool for business corridors that are really looking to collectively work together and take it to the next level. And it just really fits the city of Columbus because it's based on partnership. And, a lot of the great things that we do are the private sector partnering with the public sector. And this is just another way that that's demonstrated in our city. With that, any questions that I can help answer?
Thank you, Mr. Lundeen. Certainly want to recognize my colleague, President Pro Tem Tyson, for joining the committee. And again, council members, please ask any questions at any time. Has there been an assessment of the economic impact of SIDs on these business corridors? We can certainly see the impact as you drive down, say, the Morris Road corridor, and you can sense it in University area. But has there been and that might be, if that's a Mr. Rissecker question, then we can go ahead and go into your presentation. You can answer it in the process. And actually, Councilmember Stenziano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before, I know it's going to be a wonderful presentation. You mentioned kind of the growth. I know we've had some conversations with different neighborhoods about how they would start that. Could you just talk a little bit about how that engagement, what it takes to start a SID? And you also mentioned kind of then we're directed by what the goals of each neighborhood SID has been or community. Just very briefly, for anyone that's watching at home or in the audience that's interested in, well, those are established. What would it take for us to kind of pursue that?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. Thank you, council member. Generally, a business association is the beginning of the drive for a special improvement district. And really, we've seen it be successful to catalyze around a particular issue. Again, security, cleanliness, and potentially a city improvement that they want to maintain to a higher level of service. As the business association is formed, I think it's important to canvass the owners of property and to understand, their willingness to commit to a higher level of taxes to generate these services. And so really it's on the ground, a champion on the ground that's going from business to business to really understand, do I have the support and momentum needed to get 60% of the signatures of the business owners in the area to begin a SID petition drive? At that point, when the Department of Development sees a business association that's making an effort, we will provide them technical assistance on the documentation, the legislation. The city attorney will review the draft petition to ensure that all of it is meeting the legal standards established in Ohio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With that, I would, Mr. Lenny, you brought up the fact that on Monday night, there was a lot of conversation about the role that Cleve Ricksecker has played in not just moving forward the Capital Crossroads and downtown SIDS, but really, we called you the father of the SIDS in our community. Mr. Talbert spoke about the engagement that he had as he was going through the process of creating the Main Street or doing the work to create the Main Street Bridge. And he said he sat at your feet to learn the process, and that you went above and beyond explaining the benefits and the process to get us to this point. And so thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I would turn it over to you to talk about this project, this potential project, and what it could mean for the SID.
Councilman Hardin and Tyson, Stenziano, I'll answer your question first. I don't forget to answer the question, and that is there any data that supports that SIDs actually have an economic impact or a positive financial impact on neighborhoods? And the answer is yes and no. In most cities like Columbus, you have one downtown. And so in order to measure whether a SID is effective, you have to be able to measure comparable districts. And most cities have one central business district. It's very difficult to measure. There's no counter neighborhood in Columbus to measure what's happening in Capital Crossroads SID, for example. And by comparing our downtown Columbus SID with Cleveland, or Cincinnati, or some city that doesn't have a SID, well, the economies may be different in those cities. So only in New York City have neighborhoods with and without SIDs been compared. And in New York, there has been quite a bit of data collected on, increased access, higher occupancy of offices, higher rents, healthier economies generally. But the only area that I'm aware of is in New York City. I want to take a minute and just give you a real quick background on Capital Crossroads SID and then get into this particular proposal for the Transit Pass program. The Capital Crossroads SID began operating with assessments in 2002. If you were around in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was quite a bit of disorder in downtown. The streets were quite grimy. Owners wanted to make an effort to do some collective marketing of downtown. And so the SID was really formed in response to interest among the owners to collectively provide some services. It currently includes 550 property owners in a 360-acre area of downtown, bounded generally by the Convention Center Way, just north of the Hyatt Regency on the north, 5th Street on the east, I-70 on the south, and the Souder River on the west. Private property owners representing far more than 60% of the property in these areas have petitioned City Council to levy assessments 4 times in 2001, 2006, 2011, and 2016. And so far, the owners have asked for assessments to pay for pretty typical services that you'd see in a downtown or in a place like Easton, which has a single owner who pays for all these things through common lease terms, and that is safety, cleaning, marketing, programming, and then we also do landscaping and maintenance of capital improvements on things that we partner with the city on, like the big planters on Capitol Square. About 4 years ago, SID staff members began hearing from commercial office brokers, office asset managers, hotels and other hospitality businesses, and downtown companies about a shortage of parking in the core area of downtown. Again, this is the area that I described, bounded by the Hyatt, 70, the river, Front Street in the river, and then 5th Street on the east. We began to study the problem in the downtown core, and we learned that in order to bring our commercial offices to full occupancy, 95% occupancy, which they want to be right now because people want to do business in downtown, we would need to build at least 4,000 additional parking spaces. We know that there are no plans at this point to build new parking, and there is no block of parking that's available. Right now, within the Capital Crossroads SID, 25% of the commercial office space is available for rent. That doesn't include Ohio Health that's moving out of downtown and probably some other companies. So we are in a pretty deep recession in downtown Columbus among the commercial offices. What happens is that when a tenant leaves downtown or leaves the core of downtown and brokers try to re-lease the space, the prospects come and they say, so where do I park my employees, all of whom drive by themselves downtown? And there is no block of parking left in the core of downtown. None, absolutely none. And so as tenants leave, new tenants aren't replacing those that are leaving. So it's been a one-way street, really, with greater and greater vacancies. Employers of low-wage workers report their employees struggle to pay for parking and transit. As a result, employee turnover is high. And existing companies would like to move employees downtown, but they can't figure out where to put their cars because we've defined our capacity by the number of cars we can park in downtown. 2 years ago, at the request of a number of office asset managers, the SID tested a program that offered free bus passes at 844 employees at 2 law firms and 2 company divisions in downtown. A division of Huntington Bank, Porter Wright Morrison Arthur, Bricker and Eckler, and a division of State Auto. It was a very good cross-section of employers. State Auto offers free parking for employees, but no transit benefits. Nobody takes the bus there. There's plenty of parking available for people at Bricker and Eckler, but parking at Broad and High for Huntington and Porter Wright was expensive and in short supply. Parking, by the way, has tightened for companies south of state since then. And within each of those divisions and firms, anyone could use the pass. Senior partners, senior executives, maybe wouldn't get caught dead on a bus, employees in and out all day long who can't use the bus. And I say that lightly because what we found out is that executives did take advantage of the service. We gave anyone who wanted credentials as of June 1st, 2015, stepped out of the way, and within 3 months, the number of people taking the bus to work went from 6.4% to 12.2%. So we doubled the ridership among those pilot employees. And based on that, the Capital Crossroads trustees asked staff to circulate a petition to provide about half the funding. So they're not willing to do 100%. We still need to match the funds that the owners are putting on the table. And that petition drive received more than adequate support to go forward. If the program's fully funded, and we think it will be, it'll run from spring of 2018 through the end of December 2020 and offer more than 41,000 employees in SID buildings free, unlimited use of CODA services. We estimate the program will open up about 2,500 parking spaces within the first 3 months. So that's the equivalent of 4 parking garages. And the experience in other cities is over time, the number of people using transit will actually go up. So we look at this as an opportunity to fill office space, build ladders of opportunity for people in neighborhoods like Linden and Hilltop, for whom parking and transit can be an expense. And then it has all kinds of environmental benefits, access benefits, benefits in neighborhoods in the urban core, because when you have jobs in downtown, we want to increase the jobs in downtown. You actually stabilize in-town neighborhoods because people don't like to commute more than 20 or 30 minutes. In downtown Seattle, there's been a very concerted effort to provide these free passes to a larger number of employees than we do here. And since 2010, downtown Seattle has added 45,000 jobs and 2,250 new single occupancy vehicles. So they have added employment that has been almost exclusively transit, bicycle, and walking.
Thank you, Mr. Ricksecker. I think this is a really exciting conversation as our community comes together to talk about the future of transportation, primarily around Columbus winning the Smart Cities Challenge, to figure out innovative ways to move people in this region. I think this is a neat time to have conversations about this type of program. Was this a part of the application? Does this fit in this type of a project? Does this fit into the smart cities in any way? Was it part of the application, or how was it talked about?
There was a transit component to smart cities. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to be implemented. I've really not read It's beyond the technology of loading cards to get on buses. I worry a little bit that the issue is not technology so much as being able to afford to get a bus pass, or because people can't get $62 a month together and end up paying $4 a day, end up paying $80 a month for buses. So I think this is a great complement to smart cities because it allows the technology that's being studied for smart cities to be used on a larger pool of people and can test that technology. One of my fears with smart cities, and I'm on the parking committee, I've expressed it, is that the technology that's being developed may not be used if people can't afford to use it. It's one thing to load value onto a card for use on an Uber car or a bus, but if you don't have the resources to do it, it's not going to be used by anyone. So we think this is a great complement to smart cities.
Thank you. President Pro Tem.
Thank you, Chairman. So, Cleve, the cost to do this, so you said that in this pilot that you did. So did the SID owners picked up part of the cost?
So for the pilot program, the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission funded that and provided enough funding to pay for whoever would end up participating in the pilot program. So that was not paid for by the SID.
And so moving forward, thinking about, since this is, so talk to me about the cost of how this would work.
Sure. We estimate the total cost of the program, including the startup costs, because there are some expenses, about 15 to 20% of the expenses is the cost of actually developing the program, will be about $5 million over the 4 years it takes to develop the program and then to operate the program with the bus passes. Now that number might vary a little bit because the way the plan for services is set up, it'll allow up to 6,000 county employees to participate. It'll allow nationwide employees in downtown outside the SID boundaries to participate, and we're not sure how many will be added to that, but we'll say 5 million is the number. The owners are coming up with about half that cost. The SID staff then, we need to match those dollars, and the SID board will decide whether to forward the assessments to the auditor's office to start the program in 2018 in August of 2017. There's a big lead time to get the assessments on the tax rolls. And so if there aren't sufficient matching funds, then the SID board can bump the whole process by a year, submit the assessments in 2018, and start the program in 2019. But given the momentum of the program, given the condition of the commercial economy in downtown right now, and given the smart cities goals, really, we think that we'd like to get this program started in 2018, which means pulling that trigger August of this year.
Thank you. So it'd be about $2.5 million.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Picking up from where President Pro Tem left off, I either read or talked to you in the past about potential federal grants. We talked about this period of time where you're going to try to figure out the $2.5 million gap. Where are those potential places that one would look to close those?
Well, when we started the program, the Federal Transit Administration was really interested in what we were doing, and there was some talk in Washington about using this program and testing on a larger scale and replicating it across the country. Our understanding is that any potential federal funding has dried up since last fall from Department of Labor or Department of Transportation, so we're recalibrating where we go for the money. We're really going after, there are really three sources of funding that we're pursuing at this point. We've engaged a grant writer who does this professionally. She is just pushing grants out the door right now, and we'll cobble together, our goal is to cobble together about $1.5 million in grants. They might be as small as literally $5,000, as large as $650,000. That probably won't happen. We probably won't get those grant commitments by August 2nd because the grant cycle will take us past August 2nd. Another source of funding, and we're just doing internal discussions right now, and so there have been no decisions, but a local campaign among some major corporations to get this funded, and we will pursue that line of thinking. And then finally, we are working with MORPC to identify some funding. There are lots of people that compete for funds through the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. And so we're not looking at a lot of funding from MORPC, but MORPC could certainly help to close the gap on this. And so that begs the question then, how do we proceed how do we get the board to submit assessments in August for 2018 if we don't have full funding at that point? And the key for that is going to be to find somebody who will guarantee the program. In other words, somebody who will step forward and say, we will guarantee that this program is fully funded. It'll buy us more time than to get this program fully funded. And we think that if we have a year and 7 months instead of 7 months, then we're much more confident we can fully fund this.
And the other city that has a program similar to this, is it Denver that has a program similar?
There are two cities that we're aware of. One is Boulder, Colorado. Started back in the late 90s. Like Columbus, they had fewer than 5% of their workforce taking transit to work. I understand that number is up to 30% now. And it's offered citywide. 70% of the people that work in Boulder now have unlimited access to transit. It's made a huge difference in that city. In that case, the city of Boulder, which operates and owns all the parking in downtown Boulder and elsewhere, uses revenue from the parking to pay for the free transit access, and it did that to free up parking for tourists. And then the only other city we're aware of is Seattle, Washington, which in that case, about 800 employers are paying for free transit. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's bigger than our program, more than 41,000 employees. And that's had a tremendous impact in Seattle. As I mentioned, increasing the jobs by 45,000 and the single occupancy vehicles by only 2,250 vehicles. There's a woman who is managing the Fifth Third Center from Seattle, Fifth Third Center here in downtown Columbus, who tells me that program saved downtown Seattle.
Cleve, there's some specifics of the program that I'm assuming would still have to be worked out in terms of who constitutes that 41,000 employees.
Correct.
How will we go through that to make sure that the benefits of this program like this would incorporate or encompass all employees, so everyone can get the impact?
We think we feel very strongly that this needs to benefit lower wage workers that struggle to pay for parking and transit in downtown. And so we will be pursuing a program that not only allows employees of companies that are based in buildings in downtown, but also employees of contract employees. In other words, janitors, security guards would be the two major groups there. And the one thing we've not set yet is the minimum hours per week that one has to work on a regular basis to qualify. And really what we'll do is we'll consult with some of the contractors to see what the typical number of hours is. Tentatively we're thinking 20 hours a week. If we need to lower it to 15, we'll lower it to 15. But we feel really strongly this needs to benefit everybody.
Well, thank you so much.
In part because we know that almost 20% of the employees in downtown make $25,000 or less. That number should be higher, but for the fact that it's a struggle to pay for parking and transit. Downtown is 30% of the jobs in Central Ohio are available to people who don't have a reliable car. 30% out of 100% of the jobs. The biggest job center in the region is downtown, and by far the biggest job center in the region for low-income workers who can get to their jobs is downtown. So it is really important to get this access issue resolved.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I think that as you talk about the program and as we as a community think about how the potential value that a program like this will have, it would behoove us not to disconnect what it means for uplifting folks who are struggling and or some of our lower waged employees that are working downtown and relieving some of the impact that a program like this could have on them. So I appreciate the work. President Pro Tem.
I just want to say thank you to you, Chairman, for hosting this hearing. Just listening to this conversation, certainly, if you think about the downtown office space, that you just mentioned that if major employers are moving out of downtown, and we don't want to have empty buildings here, and certainly want to make sure that employees can get here, that I think that, and then the lack of, parking garages, that we do have to think outside the box as to how we're going to solve this issue. And then certainly, as the chairman stated, just thinking about the individuals that are working as contract workers, low-wage employees that certainly would want to work, that are working downtown, and maybe even more could work downtown if they had a reliable way to be able to get back and forth to work. So that part of it, as all of it, is very. I'm interested in, and certainly would want to work with the chairman as he moves forward to see what roles we can play around this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. Now we'll move to public portion of the hearing. We have one speaker slip, and that is Mr. George Limbert. Would you please come forward and give us your name and any organization that you represent?
Mr. Chairman, Councilwoman, I appreciate the time. My name is George Limbert. I'm the General Counsel for the Red Roof Inn Hotels. You may not know, but Red Roof Inn's headquarters are here in Columbus. We're the only hotel brand that is headquartered in the state of Ohio. Red Roof Inn Hotels employs 6,000 employees all across the world. I'm here in particular on behalf of our hotel that sits on Nationwide Boulevard. And first and foremost, I just want to speak and commend Cleve and the Capital Crossroads SID. What they've done with the Nationwide Boulevard area has been incredible. It's been incredible for our hotel. Their mission has been just truly amazing. The help that they've provided the hotel has just been unbelievable. So if we're talking about Columbus being a hospitable city, I think Capital Crossroads SID, working with the local hotels in that area, has really been part of that. I'm certainly for this measure. We are a business that has high turnover. We are low wage business. A lot of our employees would benefit from this particular petition. My only concern has to do with the way that the assessment is being rendered. We are a hotel. We would ask that reconsideration be made as it relates to the mixed use exemption. So essentially, today, my understanding is that because we're in a hotel that employs 25 individuals, because we're the same size as a comparable office building that may employ 200 individuals, we're paying the same assessment. So that would be my only concern with this. There is a mixed use exemption that's already in place. I just think it should extend to hotels as it relates to that. And I think that's in line with the spirit of the revised code section 1710.06 that talks about each member's share of the cost of this transit service plan will be in proportion to the benefits. And when you compare us to a comparable size office building that has 5 times, 10 times the number of employees, I think having the mixed use exemption would be of benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindbergh, for that comment. Cleve, will you speak about the mixed-in exemption?
Yeah, I'm happy to, and I'll say that George has a good point. I'll talk about that in a minute. The way the the program works is that a property that has mixed use, say residential, office, and retail, will be treated. The space will be treated differently within that building. And the reason is that the transit assessment, the transit benefit, only applies to commercial buildings that are office, hotel, retail, but not parking structures or residential structures. Our parking problem is really 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. There's really no parking problem in the evenings and weekends. And so it's really addressing in a very narrow way what the parking issues are. Now, George makes a good point, and that is the assessment is based on square footage. 3 cents a square foot is what's being assessed. And the per-person employee charge for a hotel is higher than for an office building. It's too late to change that because when you circulate a petition, the petition language is sort of a contract. So people say they sign the petition and they agree to pay the assessment based on what language is in that petition. And we're at the end of the petition drive, not at the beginning. So it's too late to change the language. I will say the 7 hotels did sign the petition. And so it did get support from all but 2 hotels in downtown, in the SID. I think there are 8 or 9 hotels in the SID. And so it's, it's hard for me to judge the value of something. If we look at the signatures, the hotels as a group seem to think there is value to this. And I think when the program works, and we think it will work, and we reauthorize this down the road, and the commercial office buildings are making all kinds of money that they weren't making before because of increased occupancy and higher rents, the next time around we can negotiate a higher rate for the office towers that are we can do it a little more thoughtfully, but right now, given the art of the possible, which, that sometimes you have to work with what's good and not necessarily perfect.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Mr. Lambert, I hear your point, and I think that I hear what you're saying, Cleve, about the process and where we are in this stage. But look forward to talking and working with you as the program, as the conversation moves along. And I just wonder if there are maybe even any grants that would speak to this issue in terms of support for mixed use
Conceivably.
Buildings.
And the other thing, if I may, different types of property owners benefit differently from the SID. And I will say that the hospitality industry, and hotels in particular, benefit because we deploy a lot of resources and a lot of people on the street at night, even though most of the assessment payers, the hotels represent a relatively small group of assessment payers. We do, from the safety and cleaning standpoint, we deploy a disproportionate number of resources at night. So the different parts of the program do benefit different property owners slightly differently, and in some cases, the hotels get extra benefit.
Well, thank you. Well, seeing no more speaker slips, this will conclude the small and minority business hearing on the proposed downtown employee transit pass program. So I want to thank Mark and Cleve for your presentation. Mark, for your engagement with our SIDs. Cleve, for your tireless work on this program. I think we talked about this for the first time 1.5 years, 2 years ago. And so to see that we're at this stage, and that you've had the conversations with our private sector folks downtown, and they've seen the benefit, that's really encouraging. So look forward to following this process and being supportive. I want to thank my staff. I want to thank my council colleagues certainly for their support and their participation in this public hearing. And certainly want to thank CTV. And finally, want to thank all of you for being here this afternoon. Did anybody take the bus? Oh, there you go. See? Well, we certainly want to continue to encourage public transportation in our city. And with that, if anybody is interested, please stick around. We have our next public hearing is at 5 o'clock around the Public Service and Transportation Committee that I also chair. Thank you all for being here. That concludes this hearing.